Hello to the wonderful viewers. Welcome to 10 unanswered questions. Today we're going to discuss all the overarching issues / situations that Ineos and co need to deal with heading into the last part of the summer, or just heading into the summer in general. Shreyas, what's the most pressing issue for you, just off the top of your head, straight off the bat, before I give the list of questions that we're going to discuss? What falls into your head straight away? Just give me anything.
I think getting the structured body into place and in an operational sense, it needs to be working before this season ends itself, so that by the time this season ends, this body, whatever people are going to be coming in, whatever profiles are going to be coming in, they don't really have to wait. That now that we are in now, we need to wait another month just that just so that they can start working again. I want them to be in a position that the moment this season ends, they can start working, and then they can then even as fans we'll be able to understand in what direction do they want to proceed the club towards. Because even until now, I would still say we are all, we've seen all the type of signings that they made, people like Omar Berada coming in. Still no news as to Dan Ashworth or whoever is going to be coming in. But
Mm-hmm.
I think once these people actually start working, that's when people will be able to understand better as to how they want to shape this club in the coming few years. Because we still don't know what type of players they're going to be going out for. We still don't know if this is the manager they would be looking to continue under as well, whether there will be a change in manager or not.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is the most pressing issue, because if this is the manager they want to continue under, then they'll have to look at the type of profiles that would complement this team under the Ten Hag system. If not, then probably we'll have to once again uproot this team from scratch, and leaving certain players in, we'll have to once again get different players in, build a team around. So it's a big issue, but I think the first and foremost they need to get the body in and operational.
Yeah, for sure. And we're definitely going to discuss that. So the list of questions we have is: one, what happens with Mason Greenwood? Two, do we let players like Casemiro and Varane go? Three, do you give Eric Ten Hag 6 months into the next season to see how he gets under the new regime? 5 or 4, what players we currently have can you build around? What positions do we need to get in the summer? What do we think will be in place at board level by next season? We're going to discuss the new stadium, how long it may take, how much it'll cost, and what happens to the area around it. How do we sort the midfield out tactically? Will the injuries disappear? And what's going to happen with the medical staff? And what will be classed as a success next season? That is the criteria that we're going to discuss. So we'll kick things off. I'm going to put it on the screen now. What happens with Mason Greenwood? Now, Shreyas, this is an interesting one, in it, because you're talking, there's interest from a lot of clubs in Italy, especially Spain with his cameos with Getafe. It obviously been fantastic for FFP, but if you look at the positions that we need at the moment, I'm not condoning this, by the way, but I'm just saying in general, we need a striker and we need a winger, and Mason Greenwood is the both. He can play on the right and he can play up top, and would complement Højlund in that sense. Do you think United will be tempted to bring him back?
I think United would be tempted to bring him back, but I would still say this is the best time that you can actually offload him. He's having a very good season with Getafe. Barca are interested in him. Juventus are interested in him. Atletico are interested in him as well. So there are going to be clubs that would want to get his signature. And I think with the way that he's been performing, if he just carries on with this, within this trajectory itself till the end of this season, he might be able to drive his price a little more upwards. And I think if United are able to generate like 40 or 45 million for Mason Greenwood, I think the biggest problem that we have in this team right now is we've got too many players.
Yeah.
Players that are not good enough, players that they can definitely put a shift in, but throughout the course of the season or in games in certain games when you want certain quality to be coming off the bench, they're not there yet, or they're not good enough to be able to do that sort of job for us. And the only way we can actually be we might be able to get in a position where changes can be made when it comes to the bench, when it even when you have to even talk about when it comes to the starting 11 as well, you need money. And we've seen this season itself that because of FFP, we've genuinely not been able to do anything in the winter window itself. Like, we've been absolutely cramped.
Yeah.
So if I look at Ineos, and Ineos do claim that they'll be looking to do a lot of business in this summer window itself. Like, a lot of business will be happening, not just on the incomings front, but on the outgoings front as well. So if you look at our team right now, with all the players out on loan and even present in this team right now, I think Mason Greenwood is someone who I'll genuinely say is the biggest asset we can sell. We all know that even United do see him as a sellable asset, and if he does end up going out, it is pure profit. So if we are able to generate 40 or 45 million of just pure profit for him, then maybe you never know what kind of player we end up going for. There are still going to be other players who might be available for even cheap, and I think when it comes to our attacking line, at least two of those areas we've sorted.
Yeah.
We've got Hoyland, you've got Garnacho, so you've got two very young players in that attacking lineup already. The third outlet is the area where we need to look at and go that probably need to work in for the future, because we genuinely don't have a different profile in there. And if Greenwood does end up going, then maybe we end up getting a winger, or probably a hybrid striker who can work as a winger as well. Because if you do look at Rashford and Greenwood, even Greenwood right now, he's not a creative playmaker. He's also he's also just a goal scoring winger.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think right now what this team is crying out for is a playmaker on the wings. We've got enough goal scorers when it comes to
Yeah.
players who cut in and score. We've already got Anthony, we've already got Garnacho, we've already got Rashford. That's three wingers itself. And apart from that, we've got a couple of wingers out on loan as well. Some players coming through the academy setup. So right now, I think what this team genuinely needs is a playmaker on the wings.
Yeah, one might say an Amad Diallo potentially, or something like that, or what
Yeah,
someone might want to go buy a Michael Elise, or a player like that.
yeah,
Just apologies about the messing about there. My camera is going to die, so if it does, I'll just switch it quickly. Yeah,
yeah.
but I've got my camera there ready, pointed at me, because it's saying the battery's quite low on there. So yeah, the next kind of topic we are going to discuss. Let me just bang it on the screen again. Do we let players like Casemiro and Varane go? How do we handle this situation, Shreyas? Because both players on massive wages. Casemiro on the decline. Varane has 3 months left before he can go on a free, but United don't want to renew this, and my camera's gone. So just answer that question for us, and I'll sort that out.
Sure. I think personally, I wouldn't really let go of them, because over the years, what I've seen, something that we missed at United is the experience, and not just the experience. I would say the quality to be, in those high pressure situations. You need players of that caliber and that experience to be around the team. Players that these guys can look up to, players that they can learn from. Because Casemiro is one of the best, I would say, in the business. Throughout the course of his career as a CDM in his position, Varane as well. I understand the fact that he's very very injury prone, but when he is there, he's a very very decent centre back to have even at this age. So, and I think apart from how they perform on the pitch, what they bring to the dressing room is something I genuinely don't see us getting in Europe anytime soon. Like if Casemiro does end up leaving, who's there who can come in with that sort of CV, that someone who's won 5 Champions League, someone who's done it for his national team as well, someone who's been arguably one of the best CDMs in La Liga for quite a long run of time. And even when he came at United the first season, he was absolutely incredible. Same goes for Varane as well. Serial trophy winner, World Cup winner. So I just don't see anyone in Europe right now, who can come in and fill in those shoes. Like, even if we do end up going for players, we'll get in younger players. We'll get in players who, uh, who I genuinely don't think will have those sort of achievements in their career, that they've already won 3 or 4 Champions Leagues. So, it's a step by step process. And I think having these sort of players to learn off from, like I think Kobe Menu right now benefits a lot by having players like Casemiro around him, because he's a seasoned professional. And Kobe Menu, with the kind of talent he has, the kind of ceiling and potential that he has, he's got the perfect mentor to work under. So I think they're worth the money, both of them, Casemiro as well as Rafael Varane. And going into next season, I think when it comes to our midfield, I think one thing that I've learned from this season is you need depth, and you need quality depth on top of that. So if you look at our midfield next season, if I go about it and say that for the number 6 position, you've got Kobe Menu and you've got Casemiro, I'd be more than happy to have both of those players in that area, and then maybe Bruno and Mount in the 10, and then some other players in the 8. Perfectly fine with that. When it comes to the centre back department, Lisandro Martinez is there. Rafa Varane is there. You've got Maguire. You've got Lindelof. So you've got a lot of players in there. But in that department, I would go. You need Martinez. You need Varane. Get a apart from Lindelof and Maguire. If you have to offload both of them, I don't really mind. But get another centre back who can not just fit in for Varane, but also for Lisandro. Because even Lisandro, throughout this, his tenure at United, he has been injured a lot. Like genuinely, he's been injured a lot. He's a
Yeah.
fantastic player, but he's been injured a lot as well.
Would you say
So
this period at the minute with Varane, do you think that's the longest he stayed fit for? Or at least if it, at the moment it feels like... Because
yeah,
I'm just waiting for that inevitable, usually it's international break in it when he goes away with France, but obviously different situation at the minute.
yeah, yeah. But and genuinely, I think Varane has actually gotten a lot of appearances for himself this season in
Yeah.
comparison to last year as well. So and whenever he's played, I don't remember the last time Varane put a foot wrong.
No.
He's a very decent player. Goes about it very smooth at the back as well. And I think but going into next season, I think you need another centre back coming in who not just slots in for Varane, slots in for Lisandro as well. And then on top of that, I think you need another centre back who is versatile enough to function as a full back as well.
Yeah, just a long list of fucking players, basically, is
Yeah,
what we need. Do let us know in the comments section. Again, apologies about the technical issues at the start, but in fairness, given the circumstance, I've switched it around pretty quickly. So, yeah, get in the comments. Let us know, would you let Casemiro and Varane go? Is it time for them to move on? Would you extend Varane's deal, maybe just on a lower wage, if he'll accept that? How do you see that situation going? Now, the next pressing issue we're going to discuss: do you give Erik ten Hag 6 months into next season to see how he gets on under the new regime? Talk to you about this, Shreyas, because it's been back and forth on it with ten Hag all season.
I think right now, after that Liverpool win, anyone would say that he deserves it. Like
Yeah.
genuinely, after that Liverpool win, anyone would say he deserves it. And even I have been very critical of Ten Hag this season. Certain decisions he's made, the way of playing that he's stuck to throughout the
Hmm.
course of the season. Even though we've seen the big gaps in midfield, the way teams are able to counter us and they know how to be able to attack us when it comes to losing out on the ball. And when we are not on the ball, we are not really a good team. We don't know how to get the
One sec, Shreyas. I can't. His sound's gone. His sound's gone. Just double check that. I don't know if something's disconnected or... It looked like he was making a fantastic point, really getting into it, and then it just went, nope.
hello.
Yeah, go on, speak.
Okay. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I was saying that throughout the course of the season, we've seen that, when we're off the ball, pressing isn't coordinated, players are running haywire, there are big gaps in midfield that gets, overexploited by practically any team in the Premier League. Even against teams like Luton and Everton, we end up conceding like 20 shots on target. So
Hmm.
we've seen that, it's not a sustainable method of actually playing football throughout the course of the season in the Premier League, especially against when you're competing for top four against big teams as well. But on the other hand, the thing has been when he's had his 11, like when he's had his fit 11, he has produced results. When Lisandro is in the team, when Shaw is in the team, Varane and Dallo have been in the team in that back line, we've looked much more stable. When Casemiro, Menu, Bruno, and then you've got that entire lineup running, we've looked a much stable team. Not saying that there is that we've played extremely well with them, but we played relatively decent. We still been able to be competitive throughout the course of the games and had results. We beat West Ham 3-0. The Wolves game as well. We allowed them to come into the game, but for the first 70 minutes, it was completely all out Manchester United in that game.
Yeah.
So I think one thing is for sure that injuries have definitely not helped his case at all this season. Lisandro practically been out for a full season. I think for 8 or 9, 6 to 7 months this season, he hasn't even had two fullbacks in the team. He's only got Dallo. He's had to play Amrabat in certain games. He's had to play Victor Lindelof at left back in certain games. So that does produce a lot of problems for any manager when you've got players playing out of position, and then you've got to rely on players who you initially wanted to actually let go of. Like McTominay was supposed to be let go of, Maguire was supposed to be let go of. Then they've come in, they've been really, really decent. Maguire won, I think, Player of the Month at a certain point in this season as well. McTominay's produced like 10 goals in this season. So both of them have contributed a lot, but the thing has been the players that he's come in with. I think Anthony definitely is someone who's still a hot topic, but I would still say I think he does deserve a little more time under the new management, because last season this manager produced, I think, a miracle. Going into winning a trophy in his first season, getting to the FA Cup final, getting third as well. Considering the type of season we were having with Cristiano Ronaldo, and other news is coming out as well. So I think right now, especially after that Liverpool win, anyone would say he at least deserves 6 months under this new management. And you never know. Maybe that opinion once again changes by the time this season ends itself. Things keep changing quite fast at United. You get a win against a team like an Arsenal or a Liverpool, suddenly the opinion changes. You
Yeah.
end up losing to a team like a Fulham or a Bournemouth. Once again, opinion completely changes.
Well, it felt like the bank ran dry, didn't it? Towards the end of the year with that Forest defeat, it was like the bank of credit with that Ten Hag kind of built up was completely empty. And then he goes on this winning run at the start of the season, and fans are like, "Oh, he was right. He was absolutely spot on about players coming back from injury and da da da." And the Fulham defeat, it gets dragged back down, and you're like, "Right, we're going back towards empty again." And then you beat Liverpool, and that really
Yeah.
buffs up kind of your reputation with the fans. Do you think he can sneak? Just the last question on Eric Ten Hag. Do you think he can sneak into the Champions League and win the FA Cup? What's your thoughts on that in a minute? And will that be enough to convince Ineos? Do you think?
I think even if he wins the FA Cup, it will be enough, genuinely.
Yeah.
Because considering the season we've had, the FA Cup is the only thing that we're fighting for right now.
Hmm.
And I think even Ineos do consider the fact that he's got his go-to players out for practically an entire season. Like genuinely, he hasn't really had as many resources in the defense, in attack as well. Hoyland's been gone in between. You've got issues, and once again, issues around Rashford, issues around Anthony, and those sort of issues just going around, behind the scenes at the club as well. So he's got a lot to deal with, Eric Ten Hag. But I think if he wins the FA Cup, especially imagine if the final is Manchester United versus Manchester City, and he beats City in the final and wins the cup. I don't see Ineos actually going and that you need to leave. I think
Yeah.
he'll be given time
Be
in
quite
that
harsh, you'd feel,
circumstance.
wouldn't you? And you think
Yeah,
he's got, I think, like what, 12 months left on his contract, something along the lines of that. It's going to cost him quite a bit to get rid of him anyway, to get him out of contract. So it makes sense financially as well with that situation. So,
yeah.
yeah, I think we're both singing from the same hymn sheet when it comes to Eric Ten Hag. Right, the next pressing issue we're going to discuss. What players we currently have can you build around? Is that the one I was going to discuss? Yes, that was
Yeah.
the one I was going to discuss. Just double checking.
Yeah.
So I've got players in mind who I would like to keep at the club and build around, but I want your take on this, and then let's see if we have the kind of same thought process.
Uh, I think starting from the back, uh, I think Dallo should be there.
Yep.
He's been quite consistent. He's been playing quite well. And once again, availability wise, he's been, I think, the most consistent defender this season throughout the course of the season. So I think that there is a lot of scope with Dallo. He's still fairly young as well. He's only 25, so there's something to build on with Dallo. I think Lisandro definitely goes in there as well. Injury record is something that does scare me with Lisandro, but once again, when he's on the pitch, and he's fit, he's a complete. I don't see anyone better than him when it comes to ball
Yeah.
playing centre backs in Europe when he's fit and when he's on it. So Lisandro is definitely going to be there. Left back, I would have said Luke Shaw, but I'm not really sure right now because once again, injuries and on top of that, availability with Luke Shaw is a bigger concern because of his age as well. I think when it comes to a left back, we need to go in for someone else. Not saying that we sell Luke Shaw, keep Luke Shaw at the club, but I think we do need to get in someone else as well. Someone who is younger, someone who is, able to adapt to that attacking fullback sense which Ten Hag wants. So I think in the defense, I've got two players, Dallo and Lisandro Martinez. In the midfield, I think Menu goes in there hands down. Like genuinely, I think Menu, definitely Kobe Menu goes in there hands down. But I think apart from it, Casemiro is not someone you can build on. He's a now player. Like he's not
Yeah.
someone you can build on 3 to 4 years. If you got a project for a couple of seasons, you can then consider Casemiro in there. But if you're trying to build a project for 4 years in the making, then Casemiro is not your guy. He's not going to be there, for that amount of span. Um, Bruno as well, once again, gives his everything on the pitch. You can never, question his commitment. You can never question the way he's playing, or his commitment towards the club. But do I see him being a part of this team 4 years down the line? I really don't know. Especially with the way he plays, with his like playing 50 or 60 odd games a season, covering every single blade of the grass in that as well in every single game. I don't see him being a part of that team either. Maybe he can still be a part of the team, like as a whole squad, but I
Mm.
don't see him a starter 4 years down the line. I don't see Bruno being a starter as well. But Kobe Menu definitely goes in there, like without a shadow of a doubt. Kobe Menu goes in there. Mason Mount, another player, is there, but you still haven't really seen anything from him. Like genuinely haven't really seen anything from him. He's coming back. I hope I hope it clicks for him. And if it does, once again, it helps us out a lot if it actually does with him, because you've got your person to come in for Bruno in there with Mason Mount, because he's quite. I think he's 24 or 25.
Yeah,
So
24.
yeah, so he's quite young. So he's also someone who can build a project around because of his age. In the attack, I think in the attack we are still quite all right. You've got Garnacho, you've also got Rasmus Højlund in there. You've got players like Ahmad present in there. You've got Anthony still around as well. Anthony, even though I know hasn't really, done quite well throughout his United tenure up until now, but he's still very very young, like 23, 20, 22. I think something around that age mark. So when you look at it from project sort of sense, like players to build the team around, uh, and at United I see it at least being a 3-year project when it comes to us, getting back to that level where you've got that solid base and foundation in. So in the attack, I think Hoyland definitely goes in there, Garnacho definitely goes in there. But apart from it, I think every single one is a question mark. Some because of their age, not because of their ability, and some because of their ability.
Yeah, well, you see Ten Hag reference the young players all the time, don't you? Like, well, the future. He keeps saying it in press conferences, like the future of this club, so bright. All these players that we've got, and your list is very similar to mine. I actually had Onana in there, which would surprise a lot of people because after that Galatasaray game when Ziyech put them 2 free
Yeah,
kicks in, I was done with that guy completely. Like he single-handedly, I think we both agree, single-handedly dumped us out
yeah.
of the Champions League, and I was livid with that. But
That
I
and I
put
think that made life tougher for Ten Hag as well. Like if we were still in the Champions League, I don't think
exactly.
things would have gotten as bad as it did.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and obviously that's the guy who he brought in. So it's kind of
Yeah,
a double-edged sword in that sense. But I had Onana, Lissandro. I think Lissandro's is a muscle injury, so I'm not as worried. It was obviously his metatarsal twice that he had to have done. I don't know what is his knee. I think it was a player who fell on him, wasn't there? Kufal, one at West Ham, who fell on him,
yeah,
Dodger.
yeah,
So Lissandro, I'm not too worried about. Dalot, Mainu, Garnacho, Hoyland, and Mount, maybe. And Ahmad, obviously,
yeah.
of course. They're the players that I would build around. Obviously, you need seasoned players around them as well, which your Brunos and your Rashfords will probably stay. But they're the players I'm looking at. You look at the age profile. Onana, 27. Lissandro, 24. Dalot, 23. Mainu, 18. Garnacho, 19.
Yeah.
Hoyland, 21. Mount, 24. So they are players you can have there for a good few years, and you can build on that, I
You
believe.
can
So
have them
absolutely.
all at least for 5 seasons. At
Yeah.
least for 5 seasons, you can have them all in there.
Yeah, depending on how the injuries go. If Mount continues on this trajectory the way his injuries are going, I mean, you're not going to get
Yeah.
anything out of him at all, are you? Right, the next thing we are going to discuss, I'll get into the comments in a minute. Make sure you all get involved whether you're watching this live or watching this later on. Question 5. What positions do we need to get in the summer? How are we seeing it? We've discussed this with Alice on the show yesterday. For anyone who hasn't seen that, we was live with Alice Talks Footy, discussing all things United and all things in the summer, etc. And it's interesting. Her answers, were very interesting. What are we saying? What do you think we need?
I think we definitely need a centre back. At least one centre back is I think major priority,
Yeah.
because I don't think that it is quite sustainable to go into a season with just two quality centre backs and then relying on players like Lindelof, like I get why people to actually not let go of Lindelof, because you need those sort of players as well, come
Yeah.
in, make 20-25 appearances through the season. The problem is when those 20-25 appearances convert to 35 to 45 appearances a season. That's where you've got a big problem. So I think you need someone who's got the quality to be a first team starter, give competition to the likes of Varane and Lisandro. And it I think overall, as a future, it would help us quite a bit, because Varane will leave eventually. If it's not now, then maybe an year down the line or a couple of years down the line. So at least then, when you've got someone around the club learning off from him, still getting appearances and minutes with Lisandro and Varane by their side, the transition isn't as bad. When you've got to transition into a new centre back, and you've got someone like Varane leaving, there's it is it leaves a big space behind, and they're big shoes to fill. We've seen it with Onana as well. He's a very very good goalkeeper, but to fill the Gea shoes, it has been a big process for him as
Yeah.
well. So I think centre back definitely. Personally, I would go for a full back as well, because I think when it comes to fullbacks, we really don't have the depth when it comes to fullbacks. You've got Dallo, you've got Wan Bissaka, and apart from them, Malacia is not. I don't really know what's up with Malacia, and Luke Shaw as well. I think he's not someone you can rely on when it comes to having 40 appearances a season.
Hmm.
He's a decent fullback, but he's not someone you can rely on throughout the full course of the season. So I think a left back is definitely someone I would go for. In the midfield, I think Bruno will still stay. I think Meno is definitely there. I think apart from it, Mason Mount will definitely be there as well, because I just don't get I don't get the idea where Mason Mount will be leaving the club anytime soon.
Yeah.
Maybe McTominay and Casemiro and these guys leave, but I think Mount, Bruno, and Meno will still be there, and probably a ball carrying eight, someone
Yeah.
who's good on the ball and someone who can
But then you need
take
a
care of.
destroyer at the same time to replace Casemiro, right? You need a ball winning like a Kante or someone like that in there. So there's a couple of profiles that you're looking at in the midfield that you
Exactly. So
potentially
I
need.
think in a I think in a if things go our way, you need two midfielders. But considering the funds that we might have at our disposal, I'm still going just for one midfielder.
Yeah.
Um, but I think apart from it, we don't really need as much in the midfield. I think at max two profiles, and you're pretty much sorted when it comes to the midfield, because you still got a lot of players. You got Menu, Mount, Bruno. You still, I don't know what. I think Eriksen might leave the club this summer as well,
Yeah.
because
He
he's
was
not really
saying
been.
he's
Yeah,
unhappy when I recently in like an interview saying he wants more game time. But the thing is, you could play if games were 20, 30 minutes, Christian, you'd be all right. You'd be absolutely fine. But it's not a
yeah,
five-a-side. Like after 30, 40 minutes,
exactly.
he gasses out. So it's not
Exactly.
reliable.
He's a very very good player. Like genuinely very good player. I
Yeah.
think one of our most creative players on the ball as well. So, but I think this at this time this team demands something else in the
Yeah.
midfield, especially with the way it plays. We need someone who can come in and restore the balance in that midfield, and I don't see Eriksen being that guy. So a midfield, like you mentioned, a destroyer. If Casemiro does end up leaving, I think we need to replace him as well. But if Casemiro doesn't leave, then you've only got to go out for one, someone who can carry the ball around, who can take care of the ball, and has the positional awareness to be in the right place at the right time when we are not on the ball. So that we don't really leave as many spaces in behind, especially against teams like Liverpool, because even in that game, the moment we lost the ball, they just waltzed through our entire defensive line and got to our
Yep.
box. So that is something we need to work on. And I think in the attack, I would still stick with Garnacho on the right wing. I
Hmm.
would stick with Hoyland playing through the center, and I would go for someone who can be a playmaker, but on the left hand side, not on the right hand side.
Yeah. I'm just gonna read a couple of comments out. Oh, some feedback there on the thing. I don't know if that's coming through. That was horrible, whatever that was. Sam saying, yes, Shreyas, getting a good look at Discord today. Oh, it's been a fucking nightmare, mate, honestly. Lucky Singh saying Southgate out. We'll discuss Southgate towards the end. Um, it's Sam saying Lissandro, Menu, Dallo, Hoyland, Garnacho. They're the players that he would build around. And the positions that he wants, new number 10, a centre-back and a left-back. It's interesting, isn't it? Because the landscape of what kind of positions we need is starting to change with a lot of people throughout the season. The more injuries we kind of pick up, the more people are discussing like where we need, areas of improvement,
Yeah,
and it's almost a full fucking team at this point, and that's going to be a massive job for whoever it is who
yeah,
comes in next season. You talk about everyone at board level, and that's the exact question that we're going to ask next: is who do we think will be in place at board level by next season. So obviously we've seen the guys that have been linked with the job Shreyas. Who do you think? How do you see these kind of Avengers assembling from what you've seen? How do you think it's going to line up?
I think Omar Barada is definitely in.
Yeah.
Everything is sorted with him, so that's one person already in. Apart from it, I think it's going to be Dan Ashworth who's
Hmm.
going to be coming in. At least with how things are sounding right now from Newcastle's end and from United's end as well, with the way the communications lines are and with the way things are coming out, I think it will be Dan Ashworth. But if not him, maybe we go out for someone else. But with the way Ineos are going, I think their first preference is Dan Ashworth. So probably him. And I just want that, whoever we go out for and whoever does end up coming in, I just want them to be working as a unit. I don't want it to be, that there is some friction in there or not. I want it to be a stable unit working in accordance with the manager as well. So that, whoever we do end up going for, not just, leaving all the back end scenes and everything that the club has to do behind the scenes behind on the pitch when it comes to player signing, when it comes to wages and contracts. I want those sort of people to come in who can work as a team,
Yeah.
not that you've got people coming in, someone wants to do something else, someone wants to do something else, and then it's a whole mess. So I get the the kind of people they're going out for, people qualified, people who have been doing this job for quite some time and have built quite a reputation. But yes, you need to find the balance in there as well, that their ideas align with each other or not.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. You make a great point there because you can bring in all the top execs that you want and all these kind of guys, but if they're bumping heads and there's no cohesion in there, then
Exactly.
everyone's not going to be aligned. So it's mega important that everyone's aligned with the same vision. You mentioned Omar Barada. I think he's already in gardening leave and he's ready to start when the summer
Yeah.
begins. Dan Ashworth back and forth with Newcastle, financial package, not sure what they're going to pay, if they're just going to wait until next season, which would be a bit of a blow, but maybe Omar can oversee certain things. Jason Wilcox, another one that's been mentioned, who's a director at
Yeah.
Southampton at the minute, and I think he
Southampton.
was kind of pivotal in bringing through talents like Phil Foden and Cole Palmer and Oscar Bob and all these kind of guys. So another very talented individual. And then Dougie Freeman's been mentioned about a recruitment specialist, so I'm not sure again, what's going to happen with that? If I know Sir Alex Ferguson's very keen on him and knows him well,
Yeah.
but they're getting the proper people in. That's the main point in it. Like you can talk about all the names. It could be a name we've never even heard of before, but it's a massive change from Murtar and Co. In it.
Yeah, definitely it is, because we know what these guys do. Like genuinely, when before they're coming in, we've seen the kind of players they've managed to pull through, the kind of clubs that they've been at, and we know that whatever they're doing, they're qualified enough to be doing what they're doing. Because and at United, it's always been, we don't even really know how the discussions are ongoing. Someday we are what we used to do, especially in this transfer window itself as well. This person has agreed to the deal. The person's mother has agreed to the deal. The person's
Yeah,
father has agreed to the deal. It's very close, almost done, and this and that and this and that. So I think we need to definitely move on from this, and especially when clubs like Liverpool, City, and Chelsea, when they go out for a player, they do get it. There's no, I would say, like if they're going for a player, it drags on for months, weeks, and even when it's done, even just the contract signing takes a couple of weeks or 3 weeks, and then by the time the players come in, the season's already started. I think
yeah.
that's the kind of thing that we need to move on from.
Yeah, 100%. And not only just that, a lot of people and people online and fans are like, they all want to discuss the transfers, and they're the kind of biggest one. What striker are we going to buy? What this, what that? But another one of the big issues and probably the biggest talking point is, sorry, I just put the wrong thing on the screen. The new stadium. How long will it take? How much will it cost? And what happens to the area around it? Now, obviously, Shreyas, you're not in Manchester, so you don't necessarily know the area around United. So I'll go into depth about things in the area and stuff like that. But the stadium, how much is this going to cost? You look at Tottenham Stadium, for example, it's £1 billion. It's probably going to be, a lot more than that, I'd imagine. Yeah, everything around that kind of whole stadium setup, how do you see that kind of moving? Do you think he is leaning towards building the Wembley of the North, that they call it?
I think the way he's framing it, I do see it taking time. Like genuinely, I do see it taking time. I don't
Yeah.
see it being a type of situation where it's done within a year. I think it might take a couple of seasons itself for the
Yeah.
new stadium to be completely in place, because even the Bernabeu, it took it a
I was just
lot
going to
of time,
mention
the new
that.
Bernabeu.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And Madrid are quite swift when it comes to working on things like this. And
Mm,
imagine a club like, Madrid, even it, especially during COVID time as well, it
yeah.
took them a lot of time to actually get the Bernabeu in place again. So I think that it will definitely be a time consuming process. And when it comes to the neighboring areas and the areas around Old Trafford, I think it genuinely comes down to the fact as to what the plan is, whether it's the renovation, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's a completely whole new model of Old Trafford being built all over again. Because I think when it comes to renovation, there's not much you can do when it comes to the neighboring areas. But when you're, once again building something from the ground up, it leaves more space when it comes to modifying every single thing around. Because I just think it will definitely go down to the fact as to how the finances are at
Mm.
United and what is the most viable option. Because on top of the stadium as well, there's a whole new training ground that needs to be built as well for Manchester United. So there are a lot of things to be built. There are a lot of big decisions that need to be taken. So, and I think either way, at least 2 years, at least 2 years.
Well, Ratcliffe mentioned this he was on a podcast. I don't know if you saw it on the cycling podcast discussing United and saying it's becoming more like an event now for fans. Like at City, you have things that you can go do afterwards. They can eat
Yeah,
there.
fan
They can do
parks and
things,
everything.
fan parks all around the stadium, and it makes you question almost how for 15 to 18 years, you think about the Glazers, they're all about money, right? How have they not looked at this and gone like, this is an opportunity? I'm not
Because
saying
it
that's
will take initial investment.
yeah, well, yeah,
That's
probably.
why.
That's why it's a good answer. But I'm just saying, like, it baffles you, doesn't it? Because they like making money. You look at hotel football that's right on the doorstep. Gary Neville initiative, bang. You know what I mean? Like, it's just an obvious idea. And anyone who's been around City's ground or been unfortunate to be around City's ground, you see like the academy across the way, like it was joined by bridges. You see loads of they're building like a big new concert kind of arena near there. I think it's going to be one of the biggest or something along the lines of that. Like the whole area around it benefits from it, and I think that's why Ratcliffe's getting like Andy Burnham involved, who's like the mayor of Manchester. Gary Neville obviously has a lot of properties and stuff around there as well, so you can see that developing, and it's just a no-brainer. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of work that goes into it. There's going to be a lot of investment that goes into it, but what they're going to reap back off that, it makes sense, doesn't it? Like it's just I don't
Yeah.
know how they've sat on it for so long. To be honest with you, it's a bizarre thing to me, but I think it's going to be a sad day when. I don't think they're gonna like. It's gonna be a big fucking wrecking ball, and Old Trafford's just gonna go.
Yeah, yeah,
Do
of
you know?
course,
I
of
don't think
course,
they're
of
gonna
course,
do
of course.
that, but it's gonna be a sad day. The transition from Old Trafford to the new stadium. But I think
Yeah.
people, if you're in a winning kind of form, people will be quick to forget that. In my opinion, I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, yeah, timing matters.
Yeah,
Like genuinely, timing matters when it comes to these sort of things. Sometimes when you're doing quite well on the pitch and when everything is going quite well, things don't seem as bad. But when like if you look into it into this season's perspective, when we lost to Nottingham Forest during the new at the end, at the end of last year,
hmm
and then this sort of thing would have come out, it would have produced a much more negative reaction. But you're on a winning streak, you're doing quite well, players are doing quite well, things surrounding the club are quite positive, not just from the club's perspective but from the fans perspective as well. Then there's a sort of cushion there that even if there is bad news incoming, things are
yeah.
still okay.
Yeah, because the transition for West Ham fans, I remember when they first moved from Upton Park to the London Stadium, and everyone was like, no, it's not the same feeling, don't have this, da da da. I'm sure Everton fans, when they leave Goodison and move into their new stadium, there's going to
Yeah.
be certain fans unhappy about it. But it's time, like, every stadium, the new camp, Bernabeu, Tottenham Stadium, Arsenal moved from Highbury into their new stadium, like, everyone's upgrading. So it seems like the right thing to do. It's modernised, isn't it? And
Yeah.
that's the way of the world. Unfortunately, I've certainly come a lot more around to the idea of moving from Old Trafford. But so we'll see how that develops. On to the next question. Shreyas, are we ready? Yes, sir. How do we sort the midfield out tactically? Because this has been a massive issue for us. Well, another one of the biggest questions. Obviously, I was listening to something. That's not obvious. I was listening to something, but I was listening to something yesterday, and he was talking about how it's almost similar style to Liverpool, and watching United versus Liverpool in the FA Cup, it was almost organised chaos in that sense. How do you sort that midfield issue out? Is it a case of you just, you bring one individual in and that can help the system and the way it is, or does he need to tweak things the way we actually play, in your opinion?
I think there needs to be certain tweaking of things, because we also seen a midfield of Casemiro, Menu, and Bruno actually being put into games. And if you look into that team as well, there really hasn't been a balance when it comes to our midfield. There is still holes left behind. Still, teams are still able to poke their way through our defensive line, just waltz through our midfield line like it doesn't even exist throughout the course of the season. And I, I think it's not as much of an issue when it comes to players. I think it's a major tactical issue on Ten Hag's front when it comes to the midfield, because we've had you can probably say we've had pretty much the same players last season as well, but we didn't have this problem last season. Last season our midfield used to be Casemiro, Eriksen, and Bruno. But
Hmm.
I don't remember a game where I would have gone and said any team, whenever they win the ball off from us, they're just getting to our box and getting a shot off every single time. It didn't happen last season. It's been
Mm.
happening a lot this season. And I would say this, that Menu is a better defensive player than Ericsson, and still it's been happening.
Yeah,
So
but
I think
to play devil's advocate on that though, when you remember the Spurs game at the start of the season with Mount and Bruno and how high they was pressing up and the turnovers that they was getting, but then he just wasn't finishing them. That's obviously a massive part that was working, but then Casemiro behind didn't quite have the legs. His legs are falling off. Would you not think if you was to throw an N'Golo Kante in there, it would work?
I think it can work, but not for a 90 minutes. It can
Yeah.
work at max for a 70, because I think any team in the Premier League, after a point, any team knows how to counter attack. I think even in the game against Wolves, it was quite similar. For the first 75 minutes of that game, Wolves didn't have anything in that game. We were creating chances left, right, and center, not taking them. I think we went up 2-0 or something in that game. And we were
Are you on
creating
about
chance.
the away game? You're talking
Yeah, the
about?
game at
All right,
Molineux.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And we were the better team for like 70, 75 minutes in that game. And
Yeah.
Wolves didn't have a sniff throughout the course of that game till that point. But eventually it wore off. Players went off.
But
Lisandro came off.
is that not a fitness issue?
Personally, I think it might be a fitness issue, but I think after a point you need to get some sort of balance in. Even if you look at Liverpool for that matter, even they like to press a lot, and for the 90 minutes they do press. But even with Liverpool, you can see that after a point
They
there's
also
a
have
balance.
controlled possession as
Yeah,
well, don't they? That's
yeah,
the thing.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think with United, the problem is we still win the ball a lot. Like in the opposition third, we've been winning the ball, I think, the most when it comes to any other team in comparison to us in the Premier League. The problem is we don't we are not that clinical when it comes to creating chances after we win the ball. And on top of that, you cannot expect, like, if even in a game, if you win the ball 10 times in the opposition half, you're not going to be scoring 10 goals. At some points you just need to just keep on hold of the ball, maintain some position, maintain some possession, because when you're leading, it does create that sort of pressure on the opposition team, and then they'll try to attack you, they'll leave spaces in behind, they will make mistakes. So I think there needs to be some sort of balance that needs to be brought into into the tactics. It cannot be all out pressing and just attack, 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 and attack. You need to have certain position and control of the game in certain moments.
I was actually going to reference Liverpool because if you look at the way they press, first and foremost, they do it collectively. So they have
Yeah,
each
yeah.
one has pressing triggers, so they know when to go, and there's not big gaps in between them.
They don't leave any like when Liverpool are pressing, you can see they block off every single channel of passing, and then the only option that the player is left with is just
To
to
go
boot the
long.
ball long.
To go
Yeah,
long. And then in that instance, they have defenders that are so comfortable 1v1 in a Van
exactly.
Dijk and a Konate who are quick enough to press right up the pitch and stay on the halfway line and they can deal with it.
Yeah,
Whereas us, that's why Ten Hag has had to change it so much because he's got Johnny Evans and Varane. And Varane's relatively quick, don't get it twisted, but you can't have one
yeah.
without the other. Do you know what I mean? You can't have Johnny Evans sitting back and then Varane right up because the line's
Varane
all
pushing
over
up.
the
Yeah,
place then. So we have to defend on the edge of our box. So there's a deep line. So then when we're pressing, that's why the midfield just gets cut open straight away.
yeah,
And that's been the issue. That's why I'm saying individual personnel. If you can bring in a Branthwaite in let's say in the back line,
yeah.
you can then push that line up. You can bring a Baldwin or like a physical specimen like an Amadou Onana, for example, in the midfield, And then you've got your combative midfielder who can deal with the situations in front of him. I thought it was interesting, Roy Keane talking about they need someone commanding that. And obviously someone like Roy Keane would know himself because he played that position for so long and was hugely successful there. I can see it working. I just think you need the individual personnel in there. And we were discussing Mount being out completely. I could see why he brought him in. Others can't really see it in a minute. People don't think it's going to work
because
out.
even I
think
do
it
get
can.
it, because when you look at pressing midfielders in the Premier League, I think if you look at it in a complete sense, he's the top 5 when it comes to pressing midfielders in the league.
Yeah.
Wins the ball a lot, and I get what he's trying to do with Mount, but I think the problem has once again been this team still relies on its wingers a lot. Like genuinely, even now, even when Hoyland is playing as well, the best chances of our game fall to our wingers. Even in games that we've lost 1-0 or 2-0 or 2-1, the best chances of the game fall to our wingers. And because Rashford has really not been at it this season, it's been a big blow for us. Hoyland has come around, but even he had injury issues. He got into the team quite late into the season as well. And Garnacho as well. He's still quite developed. He's still in his developmental stages. He's still quite young. So you can't expect him to be clinical with every single strike that he makes. He actually works quite a lot when it comes to his shooting angles. So I think because once again moving up, when you look at our front line, it's not been as clinical. It's not been as when it comes to chemistry wise and sync wise, it's not been absolutely perfect or been there consistently at that level. It's been a bit tough, but I think in certain games, definitely this midfield has worked. It has been able to do what it wants to do, but I think you do need, if you do want to play this way, even next season, for example, the midfield is Menu, Bruno, and Mount. You still need another CDM who has the legs to just come on and do the job.
Menu is good, but from what I've seen, if you start playing him in that 6, you take away his ability of what he's good at from dribbling in them areas. Like we've seen it on that left hand side against Liverpool, against Wolves, where he got that amazing goal. His main assets is composure on the ball and dribbling, and he's obviously got a pass as well. So I think I would lean more towards playing Menu in an 8. And then that's the thing, like where do you play Mount, then where do you play Bruno? I don't know about the balance. I don't know how it's going to work, to be honest. I just want to dive into a couple of comments before we get into the next, or the last two, should I say. Lucky Singh saying, we want to get the standard of the club up, no Southgate. Lumen saying, Lucky Singh, you love Sir Jim Ratcliffe, you hate Sir Jim Ratcliffe, I don't know what that means. Sam saying, Casemiro to be sold, need a significant DM to sit and hold with Mainu and Bruno or Mount, or if you're planning Kobe as your 6, you need a ball carrying 8. Koke Vlahovic, Amadou Onana in the summer. I'm not sure about the first two, but Amadou Onana I can definitely get on board with. Right, the next one. Let me see, get the right one. Will the injuries disappear? Like, what is going on with this? Because is it the medical staff? Is it the way, is Ten Hag training him too much? There's kind of conspiracies about that he's working him too hard in training, and that's why you're seeing Casemiro picking up as many injuries as he did. That's why you see other players with like Luke Shaw with muscle injuries. But don't forget, Luke Shaw was also very injury prone before Ten Hag got his hands on him. So what do you think will happen? Will we start to see a change in that in the summer? And you would imagine that Ineos are really looking at that, aren't they? Because it's been unacceptable this season, the amount that we've had.
I really don't know if it comes down to the training sessions, because once again, there are other teams who work even more than us when it comes to training sessions. They have even more grueling training sessions than us, and not just a couple of teams that I can handpick. There are going to be a lot of teams that work even harder. So I'm not quite sure to lean into that direction. But I think the medical department is something that definitely needs to be looked at, because I still cannot understand how they could have gone to Ten Hag and said that Luke Shaw will be back in January and Malacia will be back in January as well, so you can let go of Reguilon.
It's crazy.
And he went back. And it has created a big problem for him, because now that Reguilon isn't there, I think he's had to play Lindelof or Amrabat in that left back position. I don't know how many games.
Got to be close to double figures. He had to. And it surely.
Yeah. And it does hamper your season in the longer run. If we look back at it and we see that, this player has been playing for us at fullback, this player has been playing for us in centre back, and this player has been in midfield or attack, you will say that, you cannot function like that. If you've in a 38 game season, you cannot function like that if you played 15 or 16 game with this sort of personnel around in that team, starting and actually playing 90 minutes of a game. So I think medical department definitely needs to change, and quite rapidly as well, because this season has genuinely not been good for us when it comes to injuries.
Yeah.
Mount has been out, Malacia has been out, Shaw has been out, Lisandro has been out, Varane's been out in between. Maguire's picked up a couple of injuries this season as well. Johnny
Wan-Bissaka.
Evans was out, Lindelof was out, Wan-Bissaka was out. The only defender that hasn't picked up an injury was Dallo. Apart from
Yeah.
him, every single one of them picked any, a certain injury. Midfield as well. Menu was out for the first half of the season. Came into the squad in November, I think. Casemiro's been out 3 times now. Bruno never gets injured, but he's been carrying a knock and an injury and is still playing
Mm-hmm.
for us.
Mm-hmm.
120 minutes he played against Liverpool as well while carrying an injury. So Bruno is a completely different player. I think apart from that, in the attack as well, Hoyland's been out a couple of
Yep.
times. Martial's pretty much been out for the whole.
Garnacho's the only one in
Yeah,
the attack line I think who hasn't.
yeah,
Mistake me if I'm wrong. Ahmad had a massive injury as well.
yeah,
Anthony was out
yeah.
for a little bit with a knock. So Garnacho's the only one in there. And Dave Brailsford always talks about small margins. That's like one of his biggest philosophies in increasing, small
Yeah.
things here, there, and everywhere. And even things down to like the finer details like nutrition and what the players are eating and how they're sleeping and all that kind of stuff. Like Liverpool are really high tech on them kind of things. And obviously it pays, it works.
Yeah, because recovery helps. Recovery definitely
Yeah.
helps out these players a lot.
Yeah, exactly. So that's something that really needs to be focused on, and I'm sure that, along with many other things that we discussed, will be on the priority list for Ineos. Now, the last thing we're going to discuss: what will be classed as a success next season, in your opinion? Because obviously, the first 2 years under Eric Ten Hag, well, nearly the first 2 seasons, should I say, people would think that would be the transitional stage, and then you get into the
Yeah.
third year, and then you start pushing for a title. But we're in this weird, awkward limbo of like where we've been through that transitional phase, but now we've got new owners. So is it like a reset, or what is it in your mind?
I think it depends first off who the manager is next season. Like if Ten Hag is still the manager, then there is different expectations. But if Ten Hag isn't the manager next season, then there's going to be different expectations for when it comes to success for United next season. If
Oh, I think we may have lost him. He's froze. Let's see if his internet comes
it
back to him.
froze,
Okay, you're okay now. You're all right now. You got a bit
yeah,
fuzzy in that, but go on. Continue.
yeah. I was saying that it depends on who the manager is next season. If Ten Hag is still the manager, then I would probably say that getting an intact style of football, style of football in and actually seeing it work throughout the course of the season. That's going to be one thing. Apart from it, getting top four once again, being able to take the fight. I'm not saying win the league, but at least being able to take the fight to clubs like Liverpool and City, so that it is every single time we go into the game, it's just a hands down that we are an underdog. I don't want that story to be repeating next season if Ten Hag is still in. If Ten Hag is not in, then once again, getting the right players in, creating an 11, getting an idea as to what sort of football this manager wants to play, and apart from it, just getting an idea as to whether the manager can take us to that heights or not. That is going to be something that we'll need to click on. But yes, if Ten Hag is still there, then I would say getting top four, getting the right players in, and yes, the style of play that he's playing right now, actually seeing it work, not just in a couple of games, but actually seeing it work 25 or 30 games a season.
It's a tough one, isn't it? Because I feel like aiming for top four again, it's like, I get what you're saying. I understand it. And
Yeah.
Ineos they won't come in themselves and they won't say, we're challenging for a title this season, because everyone will go, shut the fuck up. We're nowhere near City and we're nowhere near Liverpool. So
I think first off, United needs to once again be a club that is there in the top four consistently. Like when we look at Man City, every single season, if people ask who are going to be top four according to you, they say City is going to be there. City is going to be there. Maybe they don't win, but they will definitely be there in top four. I think United, for at least for the first years under Ineos, needs to come back to that level. That at least we are a consistent Champions League going club. We're not someone who falls down to fifth, then goes to third or fourth, and then back to fifth or sixth. I think that's the narrative that needs to change.
yeah, I agree. Let us know in the comments section what would be acceptable for Manchester United next season to finish. I mean, we've obviously not even finished this season, first and foremost, so I understand that. But next season, what do you think Eric Ten Hag needs to do under Ineos to succeed? Of course, as well, it depends on, the what players we bring in, what players we get rid of, how they're kind of going about that situation. But I think it's fascinating. There was one thing on the list I wanted to discuss, and it's not necessarily based on 10 unanswered questions. It's just a rumour that's been floated about at the minute that's tied to Ineos. You know where I'm going with this. And I'm hoping it's going to let me put it on the screen because, yeah, it is. This man right here, let me just go full screen. Mr. Gareth Southgate, Shreyas, is being linked with a job to Manchester United. I can hear Sam somewhere screaming from afar. What are your thoughts on this situation? Would you even give it a moment of thought? Just talk to me about that, please.
I will just stick with Ten Hag. No problems. I can handle 20 shots a game. I can handle even 30, 50 shots a game on target for United. But no, Gareth Southgate, not at all.
Do you think any United fans would warm to that idea? Anyone?
No, I don't think anyone would. I genuinely don't think anyone would, especially with the type of choices he makes and especially with the kind of things that he's done, even during his tenure at England, doesn't fill me with confidence whatsoever. Especially when coming into Manchester United with the kind of setting that we've got as well at the moment. Not at all. Not at all.
Yeah, you think Maguire's definitely going to get the armband back in it if Southgate gets in? Yeah.
Yeah, Maguire's definitely going.
Some form of like Brexit approach with a lot of the rumours that are coming out there. Like there's a lot of British, like we've got British players, the British managers.
Potter,
I'm not being funny.
Southgate.
I'm British myself, but if you look at the league and you look at the success, it is predominantly, foreign managers, foreign players. Who's the best player in the league?
Has a British manager ever won the league?
Yeah. No, I don't think any have. I don't think any have at all. Has any even come close to winning the league? I mean, obviously Fergie's Scottish, so he's not English in that sense. But it's one of them. Like you look at the best player in the league, it's probably Kevin De Bruyne, right? If you would put him out there, his talent.
Oh yeah.
Top goal scorer, Erling Haaland. Best manager in the league, Pep Guardiola. It's more of a Spanish influence at the minute, you would say, near the top of the table. We look at Unai Emery, Pep, Arteta, these kind of guys, like doing bits there. So. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know about this British core and how that's going to work out. A lot of the successful clubs at the minute have a huge foreign kind of influence. So I don't know. I find it strange. They're going with the Dan Ashworth. It's Jim Ratcliffe from Manchester. They're going with Southgate from England. They're going with it. I don't know. It's a weird kind of thing to me, but I just wanted to discuss the possibility and how you felt about it. Again, I would ask the comment section to tell me how you feel about Gareth Southgate, but plenty of you have put your thoughts and feelings on him in the section, so I don't need to ask that. I need to ask one more question. If you can, smash a like in the video, subscribe to the channel, let us know your thoughts on all the questions that we've put forward and how you feel about it. Big thank you to Shreyas for coming on. Do you have anything else you wanna put out there into the air before we go?
Yeah, just enjoy this international break. Enjoy.
Impossible to enjoy an international break. It is slightly when you win against Liverpool and you have that kind of hangover. That's nice, I suppose.
Yeah, the reason I'm saying it is because once the season once United start playing again, you don't know what's in store for us in the coming time. You genuinely don't know what's in store for us. So just enjoy this time that you've got.
Yeah, hold on to it. I think England play, if anyone's interested in international football, I think England play Brazil on Friday or Saturday, and then we play Belgium, and we've got a couple of friendlies in between, before we go to the Euros. So, obviously, Mainu will be playing now. That's probably the only reason why I'll be watching England, to watch him play against Brazil and see that midfield. Do you think Rice, Bellingham, Mainu, is that the way to go?
Any other manager would go that way, but because Southgate is manager, it will definitely be Henderson.
Henderson, he's at Ajax though, isn't it? Like in a shit team at the moment. I don't get how you could possibly even like.
He's made bizarre calls before. He's gone with Connor Cody over Fikayo Tomori. He's gone with Calvin Phillips over Madison in certain games as well. So he can go with anything he wants. And I think at max, even if Mino gets an appearance, it will be as a sub.
Yeah, but I'll be happy to see him. I'm delighted for him, man. I'm buzzing he's got the call up. And it's been a wild ride, considering he's only had 14 to 15 senior appearances for Manchester United. That is crazy as fuck. But yeah, he's killing it. Super proud of him. And yeah, look forward to when United return. It's going to be an old, long international break, but we will have plenty of content to cover that. So make sure you do turn on that notification bell so you don't miss a live when we do go. Smash a like on the video, subscribe, check us out on socials, all the socials at the top of your screen there, and we'll see you guys in the next one, yeah? Big up.